Okay, hello. My name is Sedona Lewis, and I am here today to present my final collection project for plant identification. So first, to start with my expectations for the course and what I expected to learn and how it turned out. Um, really, I went into this course wanting to learn just how to identify an unknown plant. And I do say I can actually confidently say that this class taught me how to do that. So I would say 10 out of 10 in this class. I definitely learned what I hoped to. It also, in addition to learning that, I feel like I also gained a more broad understanding of taxonomy and how we kind of navigate the evolutionary relatedness of plant species. So that was cool. And I also appreciated about this class that we didn't have to memorize all of the really intense vocabulary, but instead we just went over it, and then we were like, this is how to look it up and go out and use it. And so I thought that was really good. So to start in on my specimens, all of my specimens were collected on the south side of Environmental Drive as you're entering the Environmental Learning Center in Fort Collins, kind of in between the road and the pond. So yeah. So this is my first specimen that I'll be showing you, specimen number 3, Medicago sativa, or common, or not, maybe not common, but alfalfa. And my second specimen in this plant family, I'm doing it, sorry, by plant family. So my second specimen in this plant family is Meliotis officinalis, and this is another one in Fabaceae. So one way, there were my two identifying family characteristics for these two specimens were in Fabaceae were the P-type flowers. One had yellow flowers, one had purple flowers. It was pretty easy to tell that they were Fabaceae. And then also the leaves are pretty distinctive, kind of alternate compound leaves. Okay, my next plant family, I only have one specimen in, and it's Typhaceae. The species is Typha angustifolia, and it's a cattail. So when I pressed it, I pressed the whole cattail flower, and then when I went to mount it and actually move the flower, the whole thing just burst into all of its parts. So unfortunately, I did not mount the flower. I'm not really sure. I'd be interested to actually know how you would do that with a cattail flower specifically. Maybe it can't be done. But yeah, so my identifying family characteristics for that specimen were that it was semi-aquatic, and so it was right on the base of the pond, and there was a ton of them around that area. And then also the really, excuse me, distinctive flowers in terminal cylindric spikes. The next plant family I also have only one specimen from, and that's the Salicaceae, or the willow family. And my species is Salix exigua. And so this one was a little tricky for me to identify because it has insect galls in there, and the gray kind of papery bulbous structures. And I actually collected this specimen for that reason, because I was like, oh, these are kind of crazy cool flowers. And I was curious, but turns out they're not flowers, they're insect galls. And so it was a little difficult for me to identify, but just from going on iNaturalist and seeing what was in the area, I was able to narrow it down. My identifying characteristics was that it was a woody plant, like a large woody plant, and then it had simple alternate leaves, and it was really the leaves that I used to identify it, like the coloring and the other characteristics. So now we're entering into the Asteraceae family, from which I have 5 specimens, and I'll just go through them really quickly. So this is my first one, specimen number 6. It's one of 2 specimens of Cirsium arvense that I actually collected. I'll show you the next one in a second. This one really puzzled me because of the lower leaves. You can see that they're kind of round. And so it took me quite a long time to come to this identification. But yeah, I did end up finding it. This is another Cirsium arvense, Canada thistle. Yeah. Next, this is, and I'm going to butcher this, Symphyotrichum erotices. And it had very cute daisy-like flowers. That's kind of how I referred to it throughout my project before I arrived at the identification. It's also Asteraceae. And Heterotheca villosa. This one also took me a pretty long time to identify. Turns out there are a lot of shrubs in Colorado that are just kind of light green, small with yellow flowers. But I ended up finding it, and that was honestly pretty exciting. Also an Asteraceae. This is rabbit brush, or Erica, Erica Maria nauseosa. And yeah, just really pretty flowers. I see it a lot around disturbed roadsides. Also Asteraceae. And finally, my most proud specimen, Ambrosia artemisifolia, or common ragweed. This plant was small enough where I obviously was able to collect the root, and it pressed really nicely, and it just really looks nice, and so I'm pretty proud of that one. Also an Asteraceae. So my identifying features for this family were that the flowers are composed of ray and or disc flowers, which is really distinctive. And so it was easy to find, to kind of just say, oh yeah, I bet this one's an Asteraceae, and then, yeah. Another kind of identifying characteristic is that they could be herbs or shrubs. So like some of my specimens are a little bit woody, and they can be like lifestyle or life cycles of all types. So it's just like I have like 6 specimens from Asteraceae, and they're all pretty different. And so that was another identifying feature, was just that they could be all of these different things. And the ragweed, I'll go back, does not have, or like I wouldn't have identified it by those distinctive ray and or disc flowers. But when I collected it, I actually had to memorize that common ragweed like Latin name for a different class. And so that's like the nickname that I put down for it. I was like, it looks like ragweed. And then it turned out to be ragweed. So that was I just kind of got lucky with that. So some challenges that I experienced during collecting, I'm not sure if if you guys told us this stuff beforehand, or if I just didn't catch it. And I also collected in a hurry. I was like on my way out of town, and anyway, so I'm not sure if I kind of should have known these things, but basically I just found that it was challenging because I was in a rush and I didn't take very good pictures. And I just kind of like found a specimen, like made sure there was enough of it, like cut off a part that was pretty descriptive, and then just like pressed it without like arranging it so that the like leaves and stuff were all like both sides, and the flowers were all laid nicely. I also tried to press things that were like not flat, like the cattail flower, and then on my Heterotheca villosa, the crown was like pretty thick, and so that made the whole plant press kind of wonky. So yeah, that's probably what I wish I would have known, what I would have done differently. But overall, it wasn't really that challenging. And if I wouldn't have been in a rush and would have planned it better, I think it would have been, a lot of my challenges would have not been challenging. Challenges associated with the rest of the project. There was a few of them that I had a hard time arriving at an ID. And that's really because at the beginning, I didn't know that we were allowed to use more resources than just our key. So I was using only the key, and like a glossary, an online glossary, and just like getting pretty frustrated. But once I started using the internet, it became a lot more fun, and I now feel like really confident that with all of the resources that I have at any given point, I actually can take an unknown specimen and identify it. So yeah, I would just mention that at the beginning of the class, just like, hey, this is the key and how to use it, but you can also use other things, because that was helpful. So I really enjoyed this whole project. I really liked getting to like handle and examine the specimens in order to see all of their characteristics. I thought it was a lot easier than when we just were shown pictures of it for like the ID assignments. Um, and I think that, like I said before, the most valuable part for me was just knowing now that I can like have a plant and I can find an ID for it and figure out what it is for whatever reason I might need to. And another really big thing is, I think like the most valuable skill kind of was just how to, because I could have like done research and found out the idea of a plant before taking this class, but now I have an understanding for the vocab and where to go to look up the vocab, and I won't be like I wouldn't be so intimidated by all of the vocab. I feel like I could do it just more confidently. So a recommendation for the class, I think it would have been kind of helpful also just to hold people accountable at the beginning of the week, just to have a mandatory like Zoom meeting kind of in place of your like your introduction kind of lectures, and just say like, hey guys, this is what's going on, like we're starting this project and we have these assignments due, and just kind of give us a chance to just catch up and say hey. And you don't have to lecture maybe during that time, because I thought the lecture videos and material worked out pretty well. But yeah, just to check in and give us a chance to ask questions and like interact with each other a little bit more. Just an idea. And finally, I was thinking with the money, you could do a cool field trip, but that is like COVID dependent. And I also think I heard that this class usually does field trips when it's not COVID. But the other idea I had was you could purchase the microscopes because I think I only used mine like a few times, and it would have been nice just to like return it and not have to buy it. But yeah, so I think that's all. Thank you so much for watching and for an awesome semester. And yeah, happy holidays. Peace out. Oops, how do I?